Okay, I'm Thea Dodds.
And I'm Dawn Tacker. We're the co-founders of greenerphotography.org. We are a nonprofit, member-driven organization that promotes greener practices, products, and services with an emphasis on sustainability, growing a business in green ways, more than one, making it financially sustainable and also environmentally friendly.
And we're going to talk to you about how you can green your business. So Greener Photography was born on the DWF. It came out of a thread that was started where people were talking about, environmental issues in photography and what the environmental impact photography has. And Don and I met at a DWF convention, 2007 maybe, and we started trading ideas, and eventually we started a blog, and it morphed into a nonprofit corporation very quickly with members on 4 continents.
So the main focus of Greener Photography is to educate photographers, to get information from suppliers that are doing green things and to get that to our members, and also to advocate for change, to try to make the environmental impact of the industry much less. There is a crazy amount of cameras in the United States alone, in the tens of millions, and just thinking about the production of those cameras alone, never mind the prints and the albums that we all make, is kind of mind-boggling. So what we're doing is to try to get people to just think through every step of their workflow, every purchase they make, and just think about, could I do this a little bit greener? Because if we all did just a little bit, then I think it would have a pretty big impact.
Yep. So one of our big things we've been promoting is for people to stop printing on plastic. This is something we didn't know. I didn't know originally that, when I was in college, we all printed on fiber paper, and a lot of us have moved away from that, and printing on RC paper is the most common print out there, which is a plastic, and it's also a really chemical intensive process, which again, when we switched to digital photography, a lot of us thought, oh, it's greener, we're not using chemicals. Well, our labs are using lots of chemicals. And there are alternatives, and there are more alternatives popping up all the time, like giclée prints, like bamboo paper, sugarcane paper, archival vegetable inks. There's so many options now that every choice we make, there's always going to be one that's going to have a lesser impact on the environment.
Right. So we're not so much, a bunch of crazy tree huggers trying to get people to just not print photographs anymore or not use their cameras on a regular basis, but rather have people look at the impact that they do have and think about the different shades of green. There's always a continuum that we can work within. For example, just working with proofs. You can choose to print a digital proof magazine product, which would be RC paper bound together. Probably your worst eco option. You could do loose proof prints, better, because the client might be able to reuse those. You could do press-printed proof books. Again, a little bit greener because the printing is digital and it's on inkjet. But the most green option of all, of course, is digital proofing. Stop handing out paper proofs. So within even just one tiny little product, you've got all these different shades of green. And, your choice multiplied by your dozens and dozens of clients over, decades of years can really make a difference in the environmental impact of your work.
And then even digital proofs, we don't really know what the environmental impact of that is. I've heard that it's something like 20% of all of the energy consumed in the U.S. is to cool the servers that are storing all the data we're creating. So online proofing, although there's nothing printed, it does have an impact. And one thing Don and I found when we were trying to green our own businesses is that it's hard to know what's the greenest option. And so that's where Greener Photography steps in and is really doing the research and giving us those answers so that we can make an informed decision, and not one that's based on emotion. A lot of us kind of make emotional decisions that digital is greener. That's one we hear all the time. And we don't have, it might be and it might not be. We just don't know. There's just nobody's done that kind of research to prove it either way.
It's pretty hard to get to the bottom of that. But, there are definitely so many things that any photographer can do, whether they consider themselves an environmentalist or not. They can make greener choices. They can at least, educate their clients. Even if you're providing RC prints, you could give information to your clients to tell them exactly how best to frame those, mat them, and preserve them. If you're not doing it yourself. But make sure that when you do do print, it's forever, and that it's stored and displayed under optimal conditions so that you're not reprinting every 10 years. That's just one little thing you can do. But part of what we've brought into greener photography due to demand was to offer membership to professional photographers, and we do that at 3 different levels. We allow them to go through a certification process, and by filling out a survey and telling us what they're doing in their business, they can, basically figure out what level they're at, and we can offer some things to them.
Yeah, and then we give people recommendations based on their answers in the survey of what they can do to be greener.
Right.
And it's great. It's something that took us 18 months or so to put together all of the different green initiatives that any photographer can implement.
Right. So just by going through our certification process, they'll have a roadmap to become a greener photographer.
And it's all choices. We don't have to do it all. But every time we make any kind of purchase, there's always going to be, one thing that's going to have a lower impact, and that's all we're asking people to do, is to just be aware.
Right. And even on the vendor side, we had some interesting talks with some of our sponsors before coming here, and one of them is Pretty PI, and I mentioned to all of our sponsors, if you can, try to use QR codes instead of sending tons of printed material. And they were one company that stepped up and said, well, tell us about QR codes. We haven't used them before. So even just a very, very short turnaround time frame, right before we came to WPPI this year, they, instead of sending boxes of printed materials for us to share with our members at our booth, they gave us beautifully printed out QR signs. They were able to figure it out, generate the QR codes, and print them on their signs. It's a very simple technology that allows them to avoid tons of printed materials that may go to waste if they're not consumed.
One thing we talk a lot about is sustainability. So just like we need to run financially sustainable businesses, we also need to run businesses that are environmentally sustainable. Many of us photograph in the outdoors. I know that's my market in weddings. There's people getting married in the outdoors. And if I feel like because my financial life is dependent on that outdoors, it also makes me responsible for protecting it. And it's all connected. There's no separation. That is connected from whether or not I'm going to choose to print on a piece of plastic for a proof, or whether or not I'm going to turn my computer off at night. It's it's every little decision you're making in every step of your business is all connected to that being sustainable.
Mm-hmm. The environmental sustainability, it just goes hand in hand with sustainability of a business. It's really hard to separate them. Your business can be sustainable by decreasing your costs, for example, not proofing and not doing printed proofs, things like that. But, in my own business, I've been able to charge a premium because I do fiber prints and I do giclée albums, and people don't even question the cost of that. So when you can do something better for the environment, charge more, you've got a sustainable business model. You can actually be sure that you'll be here in 10 years. People that are maybe making different choices may find that a little bit harder. So, we're very concerned with businesses being here in 10 years. We want, people doing good work to be around, and they can do that by choosing greener products for their business.